Welcome back to Vuln Vibes. Today we're doing a deep dive into CVE 2025-21605. It's a pretty high severity issue in Redis.
That's right. It affects a lot of systems out there. We're talking about a denial of service vulnerability.
And the interesting part is how it works, right? It's about how Redis handles client output buffers.
Exactly. Specifically, the lack of default limits on those buffers for what they call normal clients.
Okay, so normal clients, not replicas or anything special.
Correct. Your standard client connection. And without a limit, well, things can get out of hand. It seems like maybe performance was prioritized historically.
Perhaps assuming users would configure limits themselves, but defaults matter, clearly.
They really do, especially now. So what happens is an attacker, and they don't even need to be authenticated.
Wait, unauthenticated. Even with password protection enabled?
Yes, that's the critical part. Even if you have require pass set up, the attacker just sends repeated commands. Since they aren't logged in, Redis dutifully replies.
With NO8 incorrect password or something similar?
Precisely. AAP with authentication required, or similar error messages, and each of those error responses goes into the client's output buffer.
Ah, and because there's no default size limit on that buffer?
It just grows and grows. The attacker keeps sending garbage, Redis keeps sending NOUth, and the memory allocated to that client's buffer keeps increasing.
Until the server runs out of memory.
Exactly. The server becomes sluggish, unresponsive, and eventually it's a full denial of service.
Wow. And which versions are we talking about? Is this an old issue?
Unfortunately, no. It affects basically all Redis versions from 2.6 onwards.
2.6, that's a long time. A huge range of deployments.
It is. The CVSS score reflects that severity too. It's a 7.5 high severity.
Okay, so 7.5 unauthenticated DOS affects versions way back to 2.6. That really underscores the need for action.
Absolutely. Because the authentication doesn't stop this specific attack vector, it makes exposed Redis instances particularly vulnerable. Think anything facing untrusted networks.
Right. So for everyone listening, managing these systems, what's the immediate advice?
Patch. Simple as that. The Redis team has pushed out fixes. You're looking for versions 6.2.18, 7.2.8, or 7.4.3.
So upgrade to one of those versions ASAP. That's the primary fix.
That's the definitive fix, yes. It addresses the root cause by, presumably, adding sensible limits.
But we know patching isn't always instant. What if you can't upgrade right this second? Are there temporary measures?
Yes, definitely. Mitigation is key here. First, network controls. Really lock down who can talk to your Redis server.
Firewalls, IPTables, security groups in the cloud. Block access from untrusted sources entirely.
Exactly. If the attacker can't connect in the first place, they can't send the commands to trigger the buffer growth. It stops the attack before it starts.
Makes sense. Anything else?
You could also look at stricter authentication at the transport layer, like enabling TLS and requiring client certificates.
So mutual TLS, that adds another barrier.
It does. It ensures only clients you've explicitly issued certificates to can even establish that initial connection, which should, in theory, prevent random unauthenticated attackers from hitting the server.
Good point. So network ACLs are crucial. Maybe MTLS if that fits your architecture. These are stopgaps until patching, though.
Correct. They reduce the risk significantly, but patching is the real solution here.
Okay, so let's quickly recap. CVE 2025-21605. Unauthenticated DOS in Redis via output buffer exhaustion affects nearly all versions since 2.6. Authentication doesn't prevent it.
Key takeaway. Patch immediately to versions 6.2.18, 7.2.8, or 7.4.3.
And if you can't patch right away, implement strict network access controls and consider stronger auth like TLS with client certs as temporary measures.
Right. It's really a reminder about those default configurations. You know, sometimes prioritizing performance or ease of use can leave these sort of subtle gaps.
It highlights that tension between optimization and security by default. A small oversight, big impact.
Indeed. It just reinforces the need for constant vigilance, prompt patching, and thinking about security in layers. You can't just rely on one thing.
Definitely food for thought there. How do you balance those default settings for usability versus locking things down tightly from the start? It's an ongoing challenge.
It really is something for everyone managing infrastructure to keep thinking about.